When my husband walked into the charity gala with her on his arm, the entire room applauded. But no one knew I was the one who'd written the check that saved the event. And by the end of the night, he'd wish he'd never underestimated me. This is a story about betrayal, hidden power, and the moment a woman decides she's done being invisible. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and hit the bell so you never miss a story that turns heartbreak into triumph. The invitation that changed everything. I never thought a crumpled piece of paper could unravel my marriage. But there it was, the Silverwood Charity Gala invitation, tucked carelessly in the breast pocket of Mark's navy blazer. The same blazer I'd bought him last Christmas, the one he swore was his favorite. I wasn't supposed to find it. I had been looking for his car keys, the ones he always misplaced, muttering under his breath about how they just disappeared. But instead, my fingers brushed against thick, embossed cardstock. The Silverwood Charity Gala, honoring our generous donors. My breath hitched. Mark had told me, just 3 days ago, that he wasn't going this year. It's all corporate schmoozing, Lila. You know how much I hate those things. He'd kissed my forehead, like that was the end of it. But this invitation wasn't just for him. Because on the back, in loopy, feminine handwriting, were the words, "Can't wait to see you there, gorgeous. M." And I knew. Mia, his brilliant, charming junior associate. The one who just needed a little mentorship. The one whose texts always made him smile, just a little too wide. I sat down on the edge of our bed, the invitation trembling in my hands. The room felt too quiet, too still. Like the air before a storm. A part of me wanted to believe there was an explanation. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it wasn't Mia. Maybe. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification from the Silverwood Foundation. Thank you for your generous donation. Your anonymous contribution has been processed. I stared at the screen. Because I had donated. A month ago, when the charity's director, an old college friend, had called in a panic. Their biggest sponsor had pulled out last minute. The children's wing would have to wait another year. I can help, I'd said without thinking. I hadn't told Mark. Not because I was hiding it, but because he'd never asked. And now as I sat there, the pieces clicked together in slow, sickening clarity. He wasn't just going to the gala. He was taking her. I could already picture it. Mia in some sleek designer dress, laughing at his jokes, her fingers brushing his arm. Him introducing her to colleagues, basking in the attention. While I sat at home oblivious, a sharp laugh escaped me. Because the irony was almost poetic. The anonymous donor who'd saved the gala was me. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The perfect dress and a silent war. The invitation still sat on my dresser, a silent accusation. I hadn't confronted Mark. Not yet. Because screaming, crying, that's what he'd expect. That's what he'd prepared for, I was sure. Some part of him probably even wanted it, the drama, the chance to play the misunderstood husband. No. If he wanted a scene, he wouldn't get one. Instead, I called Elise. Elise had been my best friend since college, the kind of woman who could turn a thrift store scarf into haute couture. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright. Lila, tell me you're finally taking me up on that wine night. I need a dress, I interrupted. And a mask. A pause. Then, slowly. Okay, what kind of mask? The kind that makes sure no one recognizes me. Another beat of silence. Then, softly. Oh, hell yes. 2 hours later, I was standing in her boutique's dressing room, staring at my reflection in a gown that cost more than my first car. Black, sleek, with a neckline that dipped just low enough to be dangerous. The mask, delicate lace with silver threading, covered half my face, turning me into someone else entirely. Elise adjusted the hem, her fingers quick and sure. You realize this is insane, right? I met her eyes in the mirror. Is it? She grinned. Oh, absolutely. But it's also the best thing you've ever done. The night of the gala, I arrived early. Not as Lila Bennett, Mark's quiet, forgettable wife. But as her, the anonymous donor, the benefactor no one had ever seen. The ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, all soft laughter and clinking glasses. I moved through the crowd like a shadow, my pulse steady, my breath even. I'd spent years being invisible in these rooms. Tonight, that was my advantage. Then I saw them. Mark, in his tailored tuxedo, looking every inch the successful lawyer. And Mia, draped in emerald silk, her hand resting on his arm like she had every right to be there. I watched as he leaned down to whisper something in her ear. Watched her laugh, bright and false. My fingers tightened around my champagne flute. Then the speeches began. The director took the stage, beaming. Tonight, we honor the generosity of those who make our work possible, especially one remarkable donor who wishes to remain anonymous. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. Thanks to them, she continued, our children's wing will break ground next month. Polite applause. Mark clapped absently, his eyes already scanning the room for someone more important to charm. The director smiled. And though they've asked for no recognition, we hope they might be here tonight. A hush fell. I set down my glass and stepped forward. The crowd parted without realizing why, until I was standing at the base of the stage, looking up. The director's eyes widened. Oh! I reached up and removed my mask. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then gasps, whispers, and Mark's voice, sharp with disbelief. Lila. I didn't look at him. Not yet. Instead, I smiled at the director, at the room, at the sea of stunned faces. You're welcome, I said softly. And then, finally I turned. Mark was pale. Mia looked like she'd been slapped. I held his gaze, letting him see it, the quiet fury, the years of being overlooked. Letting him understand, for the first time, exactly who he'd underestimated. The room was still waiting, breathless, so I gave them what they wanted. Darling, I said, sweet as poison, you didn't think I'd miss my own gala, did you? The fallout, the silence that followed my question was so thick I could feel it pressing against my skin. For the first time in years, every eye in the room was on me. Not Mark, not Mia. Me. Mark's mouth opened, then closed again. He looked like a man who had just realized the ground beneath him wasn't solid after all. Mia recovered first. Her grip on his arm tightened, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the fabric of his tuxedo jacket. Lila, she said, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a choke. What a surprise. I tilted my head, letting my smile sharpen. Was it? The director, bless her, was still standing frozen on the stage, the microphone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. The guests around us had stopped pretending they weren't watching. A few phones were even discreetly raised, because of course they were. This was the kind of drama money couldn't buy. Mark finally found his voice. Lila, he said, low and urgent, stepping toward me. Let's talk about this somewhere. Private. I finished for him. Why? You didn't seem to mind an audience when you brought her. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Mia's cheeks flushed. This is completely inappropriate, she hissed. I laughed. The sound was bright, sharp enough to cut glass. Oh, Mia, you don't get to talk about inappropriate right now. Mark's jaw clenched. I could see the calculations flashing behind his eyes. Damage control, reputation management, all the things he was so good at. But this wasn't a courtroom. This wasn't a negotiation. This was my moment. I turned back to the director, who was watching me with something between awe and horror. I'd love to hear more about the children's wing, I said, as if nothing had happened. Perhaps a tour of the plans? She blinked, then nodded rapidly. Of course. Right this way. I didn't look back as I followed her off the floor. I didn't need to. The whispers were already spreading like wildfire, and I knew exactly what they were saying. Did you know? How long has this been going on? That's his wife. The tour was a blur. I nodded at blueprints, smiled at renderings, all while my blood hummed under my skin. It wasn't until we reached a quiet corner of the venue that the director, Sarah, finally stopped, her expression torn between gratitude and pity. Lila, she said carefully, I had no idea you were the anonymous donor. Nobody did, I said. That was the point. She hesitated. And Mark. I exhaled, the weight of the night settling over me. Mark thought philanthropy was beneath him unless it came with a photo op. Sarah's lips pressed together. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I adjusted the strap of my dress, my reflection in the nearby window a stranger, elegant, untouchable. I'm not, because that was the truth. The anger was still there, yes, simmering under my ribs. But beneath it, something lighter. Something like freedom. A commotion at the entrance made us both turn. Mark was storming toward us. His tie loosened, his expression dark. Sarah stiffened. "Do you want me to?" "No," I said. "I've got this." He didn't wait for her to leave before grabbing my arm. "What the hell was that?" he snarled, low enough that only I could hear. I didn't pull away, just looked down at his hand, then back up at him. "You're hurting me." He dropped his grip like I'd burned him. "I could explain," he said quickly. "Mia, it's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Then what is it, Mark?" "Because from where I'm standing, you lied to me. You took her to my event. And you let everyone think she was yours." His throat worked. "I didn't." "Save it." I stepped back, straightening my shoulders. "We'll talk at home. Or rather you will. And you'll decide how much of the truth you actually want to tell me." His eyes widened. "You're leaving." I glanced past him, to where Mia was hovering near the exit, her face pale. To the guests still watching, their whispers trailing after me like shadows. Then I smiled. "Oh, Mark," I said softly. "I'm just getting started." And with that, I walked away, leaving him standing there alone, in the ruins of the life he thought he controlled. The reckoning. The drive home was eerily quiet. No tears, no screaming, just the hum of the engine and the distant glow of city lights. I kept my hand steady on the wheel, my gaze fixed ahead. The mask was gone, but the woman who wore it still lingered beneath my skin. Mark arrived 20 minutes after I did. I heard the key turn in the lock, the hesitant footsteps in the foyer. He paused in the doorway of the living room, his tie undone, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it. "Lila," he began. I didn't look up from my wine glass. "Sit down." He hesitated, then obeyed. The couch creaked under his weight. For the first time in our marriage, he looked small in our home. "You're going to tell me everything," I said. "Not the half-truths, not the spin. Everything. Starting with Mia." His throat bobbed. "It wasn't." "Starting with Mia," I repeated, my voice calm. "Deadly." He flinched. And then, like a dam breaking, it all spilled out. The late nights at the office that weren't just work. The texts, the dinners, the way she made him feel seen in a way he claimed I hadn't in years. He even admitted the gala had been her idea. She said it would be good for my career. I listened. Silently. Coldly. When he finally finished, his shoulders slumped, his hands dangling between his knees. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The words hung in the air, hollow. I took a slow sip of my wine. "Do you know why I donated anonymously?" He blinked, thrown by the shift. "What?" "The children's wing," I said. "I didn't put my name on it, because it wasn't about credit. It was about helping. Something you'd never understand." His face twisted. "Lila, I'm not done." I set the glass down with a quiet click. "You spent years making me feel invisible. Like my voice didn't matter. Like I didn't matter." I leaned forward, finally meeting his eyes. "But tonight, you saw what happens when I stop hiding." A beat of silence. Then, quietly, "What do you want?" It was the first honest question he'd asked in years. I smiled. "Divorce papers will be here Monday," I said. "You'll sign them. You'll move out. And you'll do it quietly, unless you want the entire city knowing how your anonymous donor wife funded your career while you cheated on her." His face paled. "You wouldn't." "Try me." I stood, walking to the window where the lights of the city glittered like distant stars. "Oh, and Mark," I added without turning, "Mia won't answer your calls anymore." I made sure of that. He stiffened. "What did you do?" I glanced over my shoulder, letting him see the steel in my gaze. "Let's just say her internship offer at Covington and Gray mysteriously vanished. Funny how that happens when your wife knows the senior partner." His mouth fell open. I turned back to the window. "Good night, Mark." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, the couch creaked again. Footsteps retreated. The front door opened, then closed with a soft, final click. Alone, I exhaled, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Epilogue. 3 months later. The Silverwood Children's Wing opened on a sunny Tuesday morning. The press covered it, of course, especially when the mysterious anonymous donor was revealed to be none other than Lila Bennett, now heading her own women's foundation. Mark's name wasn't mentioned once. And as I cut the ribbon, surrounded by laughter and applause, I realized something. The best revenge wasn't destruction. It was living brilliantly without them.